Welcome back to our YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen. As the government and the opposition are considering a roundtable talks so that they can unlock a crisis and a political stalemate that we are witnessing in the country, several proposals continue to come in. But one question that people keep on asking is whether we have the political goodwill from the government. For example, I'm one person who believes that after the sentiments of the US ambassador to Kenya, Madam Meg Whitman, there are no hopes in these talks. Because one of the things that Azimio has put on the table to be discussed is electoral justice. What happened in the 2022 August elections. And recently we were made to understand that Raila is not in the country, despite the fact that William Ruto has assumed office and he's got full powers now. Some of the government quarters decided to threaten and intimidate Raila. And so we have two of our former IEBC commissioners out of the country, fearing for their lives. That makes it now 3 if you add a combi. And we are creating a scenario where our commissioners will be led by fear. They will not discharge their duties perfectly, because now they will be dancing to someone's tune, to the executive's tune. Meg Whitman declared authoritatively, without fear, that the 2022 election was the best ever election that we have ever conducted in the history of Kenya. And she was saying this at a time when Raila is saying that his votes were stolen. But it seems that the government is employing some dirty tactics to ensure that either the talks are going to be derailed or to try and trap Azimio into a box. And I want to give you an example of what William Ruto did in the first bipartisan talks to try and lure Azimio. You see, when they knew very well that Azimio had several pieces of agenda that they wanted to discuss, they intentionally and very maliciously brought in the name of one of the Azimio members of parliament, Eden Kenyan, knowing very well that Azimio was going to protest. And their target was just one, that when Azimio brings their agenda, they also try to sneak in very unnecessary, very trivial matters to be discussed. So by Azimio claiming that Eden Kenyan was their member of parliament and therefore he could not be included in the first bipartisan talk, that one that was being led by Otindi Amolo and the male member of parliament, I think. They also had a chance to now tell Azimio, you simply drag the debate, you say no, Eden Kenyan is not yours, it is ours and all that kind of things. So when you begin to discuss trivial matters like who is supposed to be included in the talks, number one, it is a delaying tactics, because instead of getting into the real matters that people need to discuss, you are here discussing who is supposed to be there and who is not. And after dragging day in, day out, after some days, then they say, we have conceded and we have ceded ground. So what we have done is that we are removing the name of Eden Kenyan. So they also pinpoint a few things that they want Azimio to remove. Then they start building a case that, you see, Azimio was complaining that we had a member of parliament that they don't want, we have removed. Now we are telling them also to remove this kind of clause and they don't want. Then they start saying that they are the ones who are negotiating in goodwill and Azimio does not want the talks to go on. Why am I saying this? We had the Laikipia Senator, Honorable John Kenywa, suggesting that we should abolish the 5-year term for presidents and governors and instead amend our constitution to allow for a 10-year term, arguing that 5 years is too short, that before a president or a governor implements all his promises to his people, they find themselves in the 4th year, the 5th year, dragged into the murky waters of politics. They want to campaign for re-election. And so he was suggesting that we should now give governors and president a 10-year term. And this has elicited several reactions. Some are trivializing, saying that this guy is just talking, but others feel that there is something. And in my opinion, these sentiments coming at a time when Kimani Ichung'wah and Kalonzo Musyoka team want to sit down, it is not just mere coincidence. This is a choreographed plan, and Joshua has been sent with a message. And what I feel that they want to do is to sneak in the presidential term limit into the talks. The other day I also had Kanini Kega saying that Azimio Jubilee must also be represented in the talks. Notwithstanding the fact that we have Jeremiah Kioni, who is the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party. When they begin, dragging in party politics in it and petty issues like presidential terms, what they want is very simple. They understand that Azimio would want to discuss the cost of living. They want to discuss the opening and scrutiny of the servers, things like that. So they will bring in things like presidential term limit. And when Azimio perhaps refuses to discuss this, they will pretend that we have now removed this. We don't want to discuss about the presidential term limit. And this will leave a burden on the Azimio side, because it will be seen that the Kenya Kwanza had several issues that they wanted to be discussed. But in the interest of time, they have decided to withdraw some of them. By doing this, when this is reported out there, the international community and Kenyans at large will say that William Ruto's side is getting into this dialogue in good faith and there is political goodwill. So they will also be telling Azimio to drop and withdraw some of the agenda that they had brought forward. Things like Jubilee must be represented and all these things, the clergy and all this, is meant to lose focus. Because when we start discussing the presidential term limit, then we lose focus of what we want. The current conversation that William Ruto would want to be forgotten as soon as yesterday is the recent killings of Azimio supporters. It's the talks about equality and equal distribution of the national cake. It's the talks about reducing the high cost of living. And so if they can come up with something that can grab headlines, like, something like this, expanding the term limit of a president, can easily grab headlines in both the print and all the media stations. If such a thing happens, then it takes away people from the heat, and it also reduces the heat from the government of discussing killings and the high cost of living. So the senator coming up with such a thing, he has been sent, if you ask me. If this senator is not sent, and if they are not testing waters, because it could also just be a ploy to test waters, what does Kenyans think? Because now the bloggers are very busy in social media. This is a way of intelligence. This is how William Ruto gathers intelligence. What are people saying about this? And with this, they understand what Kenyans feel about the presidency, because if majority accept that William Ruto should continue, then they will easily argue that Ruto has the will of the people. It is a vote of confidence. But if very many people don't want it, and of course this is something that even Rigathi Gachagua will not want, because Rigathi Gachagua would want William Ruto to finish his term very quickly and hand over the baton to him. Last, this senator wanted to be relevant. You see, he was in Gishu, Ruto's home county. So sometimes you just want to be politically relevant. You want to assure the Uasin Gishu people, Ruto's people, that we love this man, we voted for him, and we would still vote for him again. So like right now, he's really trending for making such utterances. And it is not the first time we hear such sentiments. And you know what will happen next? William Ruto will come up in the open and say that I'm not intending to extend my term, thereby trying to emphasize the fact that he's a good president. He wants to uphold the constitution, because when he comes up with such a thing and says that, you know, we must respect our constitution, we cannot go beyond our limits, then people say William Ruto has rejected proposals to expand the term limit, and people will say, yes, this guy, and you will see his members of parliament, especially from Central, saying that we know William Ruto respect the constitution. You see him, he wants to finish his term and give it to Rigathi Gachagua. So relevance, political relevance, even to William Ruto, is very paramount on this. But Azimi should be very careful. They should not drag in very many agendas, because this will be used as a bait to them. I don't know what to think, but that is my take.